The sky was a pale gray that morning, the kind of light that seemed to strip the world of warmth. A sleek black limousine rolled slowly toward the grand gates of Westfield Cemetery, carrying the lifeless body of billionaire industrialist Veronica Hale. The media circled like vultures, the mourners whispered their condolences, and the floral arrangements towered like monuments to her legacy. Everyone believed she was gone, everyone, except for one man who had a secret that would shatter their carefully constructed reality. Before the coffin could even touch the polished marble platform, a shout rang out, "Stop, she's not dead." The words sliced through the hum of the funeral like a lightning bolt. Heads turned, cameras swung. The crowd gasped as an unassuming figure, covered in smudges of dust and grime, hurried through the throng. He was a garbage collector, his uniform wrinkled and stained, his eyes wide with urgency. "Veronica Hale is alive," he yelled, his voice trembling but unwavering. Pause for a moment. If you believe in kindness and second chances, hit that like button, comment below, share this story, and don't forget to subscribe to Kindness Corner. No one moved at first. The funeral director looked ready to call security. Veronica's children, Richard and Sophie, froze in disbelief. How could someone so ordinary, so overlooked, possess the power to undo the impossible? Yet the man, named Tobias Crane, didn't stop. He held up a small, folded piece of paper, shaking. "I know where she is, and I have the proof." The crowd parted reluctantly as Tobias guided them to the edge of the cemetery, where a dusty delivery truck waited. Inside the truck was a woman, frail but unmistakably alive, wrapped in a worn blanket. Her eyes fluttered open, revealing the familiar amber gaze of Veronica Hale. Gasps and murmurs erupted into cries. Sophie fell to her knees, clutching her mother as tears streamed down her face. Richard could hardly speak, his hands shaking as he tried to touch the miracle that stood before him. Veronica's story was one of heartbreak, greed, and survival. She had discovered a financial scandal in her company, a corruption so vast it threatened lives. When she confronted the perpetrators, they silenced her with a staged accident. They left her for dead in a remote cabin, far from the city's eyes. Tobias, who had been the local garbage collector for over a decade, had noticed unusual activity in the abandoned area and had been checking on the cabin for weeks. On the morning of the accident, he had witnessed a shadowy figure flee and saw Veronica barely alive, hidden under the debris of her supposed demise. As the crowd listened, a stunned silence followed. The billionaire who had seemed untouchable was human, vulnerable, and saved by the kindness of a man society often ignored. Veronica's hands trembled as she recounted the weeks of struggle, her fight against hunger, cold, and despair, and the unexpected companionship of Tobias, who risked his job, reputation, and safety to ensure she survived. Tobias had brought her food, water, and blankets, sometimes spending hours tending to the small cabin in secret. He became her lifeline, a silent guardian in the shadows. When she finally regained enough strength, he drove her to safety, arranging for discreet medical care. Yet, despite the danger, Tobias refused recognition. "I didn't do it for fame," he said quietly. "I did it because someone had to care." Veronica stood before her family and the crowd, her voice steady but raw with emotion. "I owe my life to Tobias. Without his courage and compassion, I wouldn't be here today, and I will make sure that kindness is never forgotten in this world of greed and indifference." The media captured every moment, but the spectacle was secondary to the human story unfolding. For the first time in her life, Veronica wasn't the untouchable billionaire. She was simply a mother, a woman, a survivor embraced by the selfless courage of a man she barely knew. Tears ran down Sophie's cheeks as she whispered, "Mom, I thought I lost you forever." Veronica held her tightly, feeling the fragility of life and the strength of love entwined in one miraculous reunion. But Tobias' revelation was more than survival. It was a lesson in humility and empathy. He refused to accept any reward, asking only that Veronica use her influence to help those ignored by society, the same way he had quietly helped her. In that moment, the crowd understood that true heroism often comes from unexpected places, and the measure of a person's worth isn't the wealth they amass, but the kindness they extend to others. Hours later, the funeral transformed into a celebration of life and second chances. The story of Tobias' bravery spread across headlines, social media, and households. People were moved not by the spectacle of wealth, but by the profound truth that ordinary humans could perform extraordinary acts of love and courage. Veronica, once isolated in her towering office, realized that her greatest legacy would not be profits or power, it would be the story of survival, compassion, and the man who saw her humanity when the world had turned away. As the sun broke through the clouds, casting golden streaks over the cemetery, the crowd stood in reverent silence. Veronica squeezed Tobias' hand, whispering, "You saved more than my life. You reminded me of what truly matters." And in that moment, no cameras, no accolades could capture the depth of gratitude, the power of kindness, and the miracle of second chances. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and comment below. Let others know that even in the darkest moments, humanity and kindness can shine brighter than any fortune. And remember, in honor of Tobias, let's all take a moment to help someone in need today, because one act of compassion can change a life forever.